guest this time is Richard Aviles, otherwise known as Rico from Rico's podcast. Rico is an ex-military vet. He's a translator that's helped with human trafficking cases. He's also a comedian, a businessman, a family man, a renaissance man of the new age. So I hope you enjoy the full interview. All right. I got Rico from Rico's podcast here. How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good, man. Thanks for having me.
You, I gotta say, are a really interesting cat.
I mean, yeah, sure. I wouldn't say cat, but yeah. Yeah. I mean, cats are kind of like strippers. They're just kind of dead inside a little bit.
Yeah, but see, I identify with a cat more than a dog at this point. I want my affection when I want my affection, and I want to be left alone when I want to be left alone.
That just proves my point.
Well, I make no bones about it. From doing podcasting for as long as I have, I'm a prostitute. I'm cool with it.
Yeah, that joke. A friend of mine, Terry McNeely, says that joke, and I always laugh because I'm like, why are you hating on cats, man? Like, they're not bad, but it's you know how it is, man. Comedians.
Yep. Always running the joke.
Oh yeah.
Actually, since we're talking about comedians, I'll bounce around this list a little bit. You got just about 3 years now, right? In comedy, is doing stand up.
Yeah. Almost 3 years. Almost
Why?
3 years, man.
What got you into it?
What got me into it was originally I didn't have a way to kind of like organize my thoughts in like a funny way, because I take a lot of things way too seriously, you know. And what comedy has done for me and what it continues to do is it allows me to like write my thoughts and organize them in a manner where I go, oh yeah, you know, shit happens, like fuck it. You know, everything I do has like a purpose.
So comedy became a pressure release valve for you.
Yeah, for my thoughts.
Hey, our thoughts are us.
Yeah.
So you've gotten to open for some pretty cool people. Ian Edwards, Shane Smith, and Kevin Farley, which is Chris Farley's brother. But there's more. Like, I'm sure you were just like, okay, let me start doing this to just get it out of me, right?
Not really, man. When I start something, and I haven't always been like this, but in the past 7 years, I kind of like started being like this. Like when I start something, like I analyze it a lot, because my time is too precious. Like I don't like wasting my time. So like, you know, comedy was one of those things that it shows me that there's no end or no limit to what you can do if you get really good at it. And I look at it as, well, if I have like skills that I'm really good at, you know, I think that's something worth a while. So that's like what comedy has become for me. Like it always was beforehand.
So it's a means to an end, but also, you know, you're using it for therapy a little bit. That's not bad. That's there are a lot of famous names in comedy that are famous because they did that exact same thing.
Yeah. Comedy is very it's a lot of tragedy plus timing.
Yeah.
A lot of that.
So let me ask you then, your 5 favorite comedians.
My first comedian would be Roy Wood Jr., just because I identify a lot with what he says. Second would be Ari Shaffir, because he has like a very crazy style that like I think he's been able to like make a living out of just being honest and being, hey, this is who I am. Bert Kreischer, because he puts up with somebody like Ari Shaffir. Rogan, because I like the intellectuality of like a lot of his jokes and the timing. And then Bob Saget, because Bob Saget is Bob Saget.
Right. Yeah.
I would love to interview him.
I loved how everyone reacted after the Aristocrats came out, And then, because it was known, but for some reason it didn't seem to be widely known how
No,
filthy of a comedian he
no,
is.
no, it wasn't. And that's the thing is like he can ride with it, you know?
Oh,
Like I tried that and like with my military friends, it works. But like there's more to that. Not everybody can do that.
yeah,
You
and
know?
there's a special kind of crowd for that.
Yeah. That's the other thing. There's a special kind of crowd for that.
Yeah. No, you've got some heavy hitters there in your list. I can't say I
Yeah.
disagree with see, you got to look at it like I'm a comedy buff as well.
Mm,
My five are different, but there's a lot of good work in the five that you listed. They don't
mm,
have the attention that they should have, but that's kind of comedy at times. But the ones that you named off, I do admire their work.
yeah.
So yeah, they may not be like Roy Wood Jr. The Daily Show. Everybody knows that one.
Well, Roy Wood Jr., the thing is, a lot of people know him for the Daily Show stuff, but they don't like observe his comedy,
Yeah.
which surprises the ever living crap out of me because it's like, how do you not know like the reason that he got on the Daily Show, you know?
Well,
And
nobody
he's
knew
great.
Trevor Noah. Nobody knew about his
Hmm.
stand up until
Yep.
he popped up. It takes initiative, and that's something that eh, I don't like to get political. I don't like to get social, and I don't like to get religious. When on the show and whatnot. Well,
Hmm.
but
It's the Holy Trinity.
initiative.
That's what I call it.
Yeah, it's initiative. Like
Hmm.
you see someone you enjoy, you don't just be like, oh, that's cool, and move on. Like check out the rest of their work.
Hmm.
It's like independent bands and whatnot. You'll hear like one song, but most people won't
Yeah.
take the initiative to venture over to the B side.
That's like, well, We Came as Romans. I don't know if you ever heard of them.
I have.
I've met them quite a few times, and I actually met the lead singer like a few months before everything happened. Like I have a picture of me and him together, and like they remember me from like a few shows. There was one show, dude, that they remembered me and they got me backstage, and I'm like behind them, like just hanging out with them, and they would like take sets, and like he gave me like a pick and the list, and then we went out and had shots, and yeah.
Well, the devilish grin and the twinkle in your eye when you were recalling that tells me that there's some fun that was there. I understand those.
Yeah, man, it was more like because I was a little older, it was more like just getting to talk to people. And that's kind of like how my podcast, like why my podcast I feel like does well, because I've met like I've done crazy things like that, you know. Like I was always like when I left Puerto Rico, I was like, dude, I'm gonna do like I'm not gonna break the law, obviously, but I want to have some stories. And I remember like I went to a Warp Tour, and like it was the day before I was supposed to report to Korea, and I didn't have a VIP pass, and I wanted to meet a day to remember, so I snuck in. And one of the bouncers caught me, and I said, listen, man, just hear me out. If you tell me no, I will leave because I don't want to break the law. Here's my leave form. Here's my flight ticket. Here's my ID card. I'm in the military. I'm a sergeant. I'm just trying to meet a day to remember. He goes, yeah, man, come on over here. Like without missing a beat. Yeah, man, come over here. And I met him. Dude, you see the picture on my Facebook, and all you see is me like this.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know what to do. We're having Chick-fil-A and everything. My ex tells that story to everybody. She's like, I couldn't believe I had a Chick-fil-A sandwich with a day to remember.
Well, you said before when you came over from Puerto Rico, you were born and raised there.
Yeah, I was born and raised in Puerto Rico. Yeah. Went to school and everything and then I left when I was 19.
Yeah, you said 2008 you came over to join the Army.
Yep, little old Missouri as a military policeman.
I heard you talking about that recently. I think it was the end of the year episode that you guys did. And why military police, bud? Why?
My dad was a cop, and he was pretty well respected by a lot of people. And my grandfather on my stepmom's side was an MP. So I kind of knew what I was getting into. and the possibility of what I could get into. So it was one of those like I'd rather be with the devil that I know, kind of ordeal. And it went great though. It went great. I did there was a couple of narcotic cases that I worked. I was in an SRT for a little while.
And for those that don't know, even I had to go look this up.
Special reactions team.
Yeah. Like I saw it and I was like, I used to work with military. I used to work in a call center and deal with the anagrams all the time. And that was one that I didn't know. And I was like, what the fuck is this? And I searched it.
I had a lot of fun. I learned a lot when I was in SRT. I learned a lot with some really good guys. We had a really good sniper too. And we kind of gave each other shit. You know how it is when a bunch of testosterone, raging testosterone, and a bunch of men get together. Everybody wants to compare dick sizes.
Yep.
So it was really fun, man. And like what I learned out of the military the most was the discipline side of things, and like just understanding that like this is funny. I don't think I've ever told this. A lot of people say don't volunteer, right? You've probably heard this, like, don't volunteer for shit. If they ask who knows how to shovel snow, you put your hand down because they already got one person. And I did the contrary. So we need somebody to do this. Fuck it, I'll do it. And like some of the coolest things like happened, to be honest. It's actually how I ended up in Iraq. So
well, we'll get to that in just a minute. I want to stay on the thought process there. Like, I kind of agree, because, you may get the shit end of the stick a few times, but like, take that risk. Say yes once in a while instead of always being no. Yeah.
And you'll learn too, is the thing. You'll learn when to say no, and with good reason too. Like I always tell people there's only 2 reasons I say no. It's because I gotta spend time with my kid or my wife. Everything else is interchangeable.
Yeah.
Everything else is interchangeable, but that's sacred.
Yeah. Even doing this, when our anniversary comes up, I'm like, nope, not doing a show, not doing an interview, not doing editing, It's time to spend with her because she puts up with a lot of shit because of this.
Yeah, my wife puts up with me. I'm not the easiest person.
I wouldn't imagine. Oh, 15 years in Iraq,
15 months.
15 months, sorry. Months. I don't know why years. Yeah. Yeah, but 15 months in Iraq, I mean, and how long were you in the military?
Just 5 years, man.
Yeah. Well, 5 years, man, in the military, from my understanding, because I got family that was service. Grandfather was a Marine. I've got Army in my family and nice. Air Force and whatnot. They say it was some of the best years of their life for the things that they learned.
Yeah.
The experiences that they got to have, the positive experiences.
Yeah.
But the negatives are weighed heavy on them.
I would say that's because they probably saw some stuff that they feel like they can't let go. And I deal with a lot of veterans on a daily basis. And what I say is like, that's commendable. But like, I would say, understand that like we made the best decisions that we could with the information and knowledge and wisdom that we had at the time. So like, I look back at it and it's like, oh, I look back at it and like now, like, would I do that now? Like, oh, probably not. Probably. There's very little things that I wouldn't like change. But Iraq to me was more like an awakening to like other cultures. And, we did some hood rat stuff too, I'll put it.
See, okay, so for my grandfather, he was the Marine, World War II in Korea.
Ooh.
Yeah. So
you had a stack.
Yeah. And he had said, he had some great experiences from it. He did learn a lot, but he wasn't necessarily all that happy with the things that were done. And there was something that he made me realize is, and you brought this up actually jokingly in that episode. You're government property, bruh. Like once you sign that paperwork, your choice is do what Uncle Sam wants.
What's funny is it
Or
wasn't even joking.
I know it's not.
Because you know how that happened though, how that came through, and a lot of people disagree with that, and I can understand. But the thing is if you read the fine print, you know what I'm saying. That's why if you like purposely hurt yourself, they can charge you with damage to government property. Mm-hmm. So
Well, you read
it's
your
like
paperwork,
I said,
right? You said you said
yeah.
you read it.
I was like, oh fuck, yes, I did.
I got a magnifying glass and everything.
I was like, some of the stuff, but here's the thing, man. Jordan Peterson has like a really good saying that says that whenever you're like really desperate, like you better grab whatever comes your way. So I kind of was like, well, this is it's better than just not doing anything, because I really wasn't doing anything with my life. So I was like, you know what? Who knows? Maybe if this goes well, like it'll be an adventure. Yeah, it was a fucking adventure, all right. But here I am at 34, looking back, like that was like 2008. So like 13, 14 years ago, So it's like, whew. For crazy times.
Well, speaking of interest in stuff and crazy times and whatnot, you've been an interpreter for 18 years?
Yeah.
And what is a language ninja?
The language ninja is like a name it's the name of my business. It's like Language Ninja Solutions. That's kind of been a brand that I built, and in the area I've worked a lot of trafficking cases and a lot of like very very crazy cases, and I kind of like got to be known as like the language ninja. Like every time there was like they needed a Spanish translator, they call the language ninja. So that's kind of like how that came to be.
But human trafficking cases, man, like have you helped bring some home?
Yeah, some of them have become citizens, actually.
That's great.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking great.
No, I mean,
not all the time.
Well, no, I get that, but like that's why I started. It was like, you're an interesting freaking dude. Like we're nerdy and we'll get into video games and stuff and whatnot later, but I mean, really,
yeah, I've done a lot of things, I guess.
I guess.
Well, here's the thing is the problem that I have is I'm very introverted, believe it or not. I don't really go out much. Like even when we do shows, I'll say hi to the crowd. Eric, my co-host, he's also my travel comedy buddy.
Mm-hmm.
We've toured together, and Eric like fucking forces me to like go hang out with people because it's like I said, like my time is very precious, and like I really like don't see a reason for me to do anything other than raise my kid or hang out with my kid because she's cool, hang out with my wife or hang out with my homies. Like even as an interpreter, like I've had people like that have hired me just because of like the podcast or because they wanted to like talk to me. And it's like, I'll bill you for an hour. And it's like, if it takes me 10 minutes, it takes me 10 minutes and I'm out.
Yeah.
I'll ask you if you want me to stay, I'll stay. Most people don't. I was like, hey, do you still need me? Because I can stay. You have me for an hour. Most people all the time say, yeah, no, it's cool. And then they're like, man, I thought he would hang out and be a little more talkative. Like, nah, bro. That's what I go on podcasts for.
No, I honestly, I understand exactly where you're coming from. I am very much the introvert myself. I think it's a trait with some of us podcasters is, we're best suited when we're either behind the microphone talking about whatever's in our head or working on a project. Like I don't know. I have 5 people in one house, including me. So it's me and my wife. I got 2 roommates and a younger brother. And like, that's enough social interaction for me. And most of the time I hole up in my studio, which is in the basement, because it's my little sanctuary and nobody bothers me.
Yeah, man. It's really interesting. And like, funny story, my wife didn't know that I did like trafficking cases and stuff. And one time I got a call and I like went into a separate room at her parents, and like a couple people overheard like a few things, and that's when they put it all together. They're like, man, how come he always has to take phone calls outside? You know, why can't he translate it in here? And like they overheard some things one time. I was like, y'all are gonna need to sign some NDAs.
Yeah, you
It's
weren't
like,
supposed.
oh my god.
Well,
So yeah,
let me ask you: do you feel that it's important for everyone to learn a second language at least?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I feel like not important. I wouldn't say, because to me the level of importance that you put on something is up to everybody. That's why some people are better at one things than others, because they put more importance in it. Um, but I think it should absolutely be something that is at least presented as an option, if not introduced at a young age.
Well, important, I guess I was a bad term to use. I personally think I'm very, very loose in a couple of different languages. Like I'm not fluent or conversational, but I could get by if I needed to. And I feel it makes you somewhat more well rounded, you know, because that means you can exist, especially if you're in, because I live in Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So the second languages that would be useful here are either Hispanic or I'm sorry, Spanish or Arabic of some
Yeah,
dialect.
yeah,
And it's not for any other reason other than sometimes it's just easier because we've got Dearborn and we've got a high population of Middle Eastern people, and at least having some basis to be able to communicate, I think would be good.
but it's more than that, and I'll tell you why. Because as an interpreter, I get to be the voice, and this is from an interpreter, right? So there's a huge difference between like knowing a language and like interpreting. Like there's huge, and translating too. And like for me at least, the cool part that I can tell you is I get to be people's voices. And like to me, that's like really cool that I get to help these people and like be able to do something. But from a social aspect, the awesome thing is there's more content and information that I can consume that will also open me up to a better understanding. I feel, be a little bit more empathetic. That's just, and again, this is just me, how I feel, because I understand like things that I used to make fun of are things that like in Puerto Rico are normal and people make fun of. Like in Puerto Rico, we say bendición, when you say hi and whatnot. And like here, it's like, hey mom, hey dad, what's up? And I'm like, so like, oh God, like that's, like different point of views, different cultures. And like, that's the beauty of it. And business wise, it opens up doors because like, as a translator, like I have enough experience that I can like, I got like big people like, hey, can you translate this book into Spanish? And like it opens up like, it's another skill to have that you can monetize the shit out of
Yeah.
if you're really good at it. Like that's why I think it's cool, and it's like it gives you a little bit more confidence too. Like it's weird. It's just like little just tad bit, because it's like you said, it's like I can talk to this dude here. Like maybe he has something cool to say.
Well, and the other thing too is like because other languages are so layered and rich and whatnot, it's a there's a lot more context that can be given
Yes.
sometimes in a foreign language, which seems strange probably to most of our American listeners, but there's a lot more context that can be given.
I can actually explain that.
Go ahead.
The reason why there's a lot more context needed is because of culture. So what a lot of people don't understand is when they confuse, like I'll use like the most common one, Mexicans versus Puerto Ricans, right? Or Cubans and Puerto Ricans. The reason why a lot of people take offense to it or get defensive or like they need to understand culture is because in Mexico there's one way of saying one word because that's how it's socially done, right? Well, how it's culturally done. And in Puerto Rico there's another way of saying it, and in Cuba there's another way of saying it. because it's different cultures. The same way that, in Boston, they do things a different way than they do in the Midwest. The same way that it's different cultures. And that's the beauty of languages, is like once you start diving into it and you start seeing dialects in different cultures, it's like, oh, that's a cool little thing there. And you start seeing different things, and it's really interesting.
Well, and if you don't take the time to learn too, you may inadvertently offend somebody, and you don't mean to, because you have high dialects and low dialects.
I got a funny story for you about that. I know someone who went to Mexico and didn't want to use an interpreter and took those little translators, and the machine accidentally translated a word improperly, which meant genitals in their dialect. And he told me about this, and I was like, yeah, man, you should have hired a pro. And like, he almost got into it. Like, he almost got like into it with this dude in there. Like, he thought he was asking for like for a hooker. Like, that's what he thought he was asking for. So like, yeah, it's important to know the difference.
Yeah. Yeah, the wife has talked about a couple of times, going out of the country and vacationing in other, countries and whatnot. And I'm totally down for it, but I just need the time to plan a little bit so I can learn some of the language.
South Korea.
She's got a sister in Germany.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah. Nice. And her husband's in the military, actually, so they're stationed over there.
So he knows all that's good though. That way
they've been there for a while.
Yeah, that way you know what place to avoid and whatnot. That's really, really good. Yeah.
But my thing is I want a little time to plan so I can actually learn some of the language. I'm not going to be fluent, but again, if I can at least just get by, without pissing somebody off. Yeah.
Dive in. Just dive in. Have you traveled outside of the country
just
much?
Just
Canada? Dude, let me tell you, I've traveled to a lot of places. They're very almost every place they speak English.
Yeah, but it feels, I don't know.
No. And I get it. But here's the thing. They'll help you. Like when I went to Japan and when I went to Korea, like, dude, they would help you. Hey, how do you say? Oh, you'll say, oh, okay, cool. Like they love it, dude. They love it. People love it when you're trying to like, learn their culture and stuff like that. Germany, I don't know. I have a friend who was stationed there for a while and he loved it. And I was like, what'd you love about it? I just loved it.
I guess the pace of living and the way they look at things over there is just more ideal to some people, because my sister-in-law is kind of the same way. Like, why do you love it? I just do. It feels right. It feels comfortable,
Like, I know that feeling. I know that feeling. That's how I feel about this town. So I'll die here. Like, that's how I feel about this town. I think it would take a lot for me to change my mind about that. And it feels like home. Like, a lot of people ask me, Richard, why Puerto Rico? Why Springfield? Why Missouri? It's like, well, it just feels right. It just feels right.
I've moved around a lot. I'm originally from Detroit, the Detroit area of Michigan, and but I've moved around the states a lot, and I still wound up back here in Michigan. I built so many opportunities and so many friendships and stuff like that. Like, no matter where I went, it never quite felt like home.
Yeah.
And so I get that, the feeling of home, be it ever so terrible at times, there's no place like home.
Every place has like their their black sheep or like their issues. No places, dude, whoever says their place is perfect, they're full of shit.
Well, that's why when I see online people are talking about, I'm leaving this state for this reason or that reason, I'm like, realize that no matter where you go, it sucks.
Yeah, and you have to deal with the same things that you're complaining about.
But now you have to learn new things that are going to suck too.
And now, by the way, you can't call, your homie that you've known for 10 years, like, probably knows someone who knows someone. You got to figure all that out again. Yeah. But we have Google. Yeah, we have Google. And that's awesome. But have fun.
Well, the way my family and my friends have always looked at it is they have an odd. I'm great at networking, even though I'm an introvert. I know how to do it.
Same here. Same here. Same here. I'm the same way. I network. I love. I was actually this morning we went to a thing called 1 Million Cups. I'm pretty sure they have one in Michigan. I'm pretty sure they have a ton in Michigan.
What was it?
It's called the 1 Million Cups. It's basically like a networking event for entrepreneurs.
Oh, okay.
And dude, it's really, at least the one here is really good. I actually presented my podcast, got a couple listeners, and I'm presenting in like a couple other places too, to get like some more listeners and some more feedback. So it's networking. Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? It's like, I want to be alone, but hey, let's talk.
Yeah.
You know, like,
well, how long have you been podcasting?
6 months. Yeah. Yeah. Not very long. It actually took a while for me to like pull the trigger on it, to be honest with you.
Okay. Well, we know you're a very goal driven man. You see an end game. I believe that's probably a bit from the military, experience, is having a goal and working towards it. It may have been before that. But so what's the goal with the podcast? What did you see that you're driving towards?
It was a way to be able to learn about things that I want to learn about while talking to people and learning about their lives. And like the beautiful thing is, what I get out of the podcast, me personally, is I learn little tricks on how people like navigate life, and it makes my life a hell of a lot easier. Like, we interviewed Rick Bird, and one of the things he was talking about is when he's doing a drawing or a painting, he does a collage, and he picks things that he likes. And that like immediately gave me an idea for like a problem that I had, that I was like, oh, that specific piece of information will help me with this problem, kind of like problem solving. And on top of that, you get to meet some really cool people and realize that they're just people, like they just have, they've had really cool jobs. They've done some pretty gangster stuff, some pretty amazing stuff. Some of them were actual gangsters. And they just like figured out like how to navigate life. And that's like the biggest thing to me, is like, cause man, life's already fucking hard. Whoever says life ain't hard, life's already difficult enough. You just have to figure out how to navigate it.
Yeah. I'm only going to touch on it briefly here because my listeners already know this, but I have actually been, you said earlier, as an interpreter, you like it because you get to be somebody's voice. You get to advocate for them.
Yeah.
In a way,
Yeah.
advocate on their behalf.
Pretty much I'm their voice is what it is. Yeah.
So I've had a similar experience. And I have done work as what is known as a recovery support specialist.
Yeah.
I've worked with people dealing with mental health and addiction issues and been the voice for those that can't speak.
Yeah.
But that's all I'm going to say on it. Yeah. Like I said, we were talking before, if you want me on your show, I will spill all of my beans if you want.
No, absolutely. We'll have to set something up because, mental health is something that a lot of people like struggle with, especially in the veteran community. I see it a lot. And to me, it's like, I think a lot of people daily struggle with mental health issues. They just think that it's like not normal, and then they demonize themselves. And like, that's one of the things that like, I'm like, that's interesting. Like, I also say that to myself in my head sometimes, sort of ordeal. And like, then the light bulb turns on, but yeah, no, absolutely, man. I think that's pretty good work. That's really important work,
So let me ask you this. So how do you balance life? Your life, you've got family, you've got podcasting, you're ex-military, and I'm probably going to say there's some lingering effects from things that you saw or whatnot, even if it's just minor stuff like personality traits and things like that. How do you recenter yourself?
In what sense? Because you asked me 3 questions there.
No, technically not. Balance and recentering are the same thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're talking about like, how do I do so many things and still not
Yeah, how
burn
do you
down
get
the world.
yeah, how do you get back to one when you need to?
Um, that's a good question. Nobody's ever asked me that. I structure my life in a way where it works for me, right? And I actually like help a lot of people do this too, and it works. I figure like myself out. So I know that there's certain issues that I have that I have to like, deal with. There's days that I'm probably not going to be 100%. There's days that I'm probably going to be like in single digits. But I understand that it's momentarily and it'll pass, and I just have to put forth the best effort. So what I do is what everything I do is very there's a sense of like, all right, I'm here now. Where are my feet? That's a motto that I tell people. Like, where are your feet right now? Well, I'm in my studio doing a podcast. Okay, cool. Then that's where you should be. So like whenever I'm doing something, like, okay, I sit down. We're gonna do like today, for example. I went to work out in the morning, and then I went to like a couple meetings. Then I went to 1 Million Cups. Then I had lunch, and then we did a podcast, and then we did another, and then we had another meeting. And then we're here, and later I'm gonna hang out with my wife. Like I'm in those moments. Because if I start lingering like everything else into like everything that I do, it would be chaotic, right? I can't carry weight from like business into jujitsu because I'm gonna get choked a lot faster and easily. I can't carry the fact that I got choked at jujitsu to work the next day because I'm gonna want to choke my coworker. Not that I have any, but I would want to choke my co-host or something. You know what I'm saying? So that's how I do it. But the other thing that I do that like a lot of people don't get is like I have a very clear and defined like order, and that's how I'm able to like be successful. Like I don't spend a ton of time on things. I spend a certain amount of time every day on it, and I'm consistent. And like for example, one of those things is me and my wife. Like I spend time with my wife, and I make sure that I do that every day. And like if me and my wife are cool, like I can take over the fucking world, bro. It's like Pinky and the Brain.
Yeah.
But then the other element is my kid. So if me and my wife are cool, I can deal with my kid. But if me and my wife are cool, I know everything else collapses. So I take those three things as a priority, myself, my health, my wife, and my kid. Everything else, jujitsu, translating, interpreting, writing, comedy, podcasting, it comes second. And
So
that's how I'm able to organize.
it sounds like then your self-care regimen is basically ongoing every day, and you're doing it through mindfulness, being one in the moment.
Yeah. Because if not, I'll just burn the world.
Yeah. Well,
That's why I tell people all the time, like, don't fuck with me. Because
well,
it's like, I don't have time.
you mentioned jujitsu. You're a purple belt.
Yeah.
You've been training
Yeah.
for 9 years.
Yeah, 9. Yeah.
Yeah.
At Springfield BJJ.
Now, did that come before or after the military?
I trained in the military for a very long time, but I can never sit down and like really like find a place that I was like, oh, this is it right here. So when I got out of the army, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna start training and not stop. And yeah, here we are. 2013 is when I started. 13, yeah, 2013. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly, you told someone that their daughter needed to learn Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in the last podcast of the year.
Yep. I told a couple people that their kids need to learn Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or some form of like combat martial art.
Well,
My family actually gives me shit. Yeah. Well, it's more than that. Like for me, like my kid, I teach my kid like simple things like how to break fall, how to roll, how to tuck her neck, what way to roll and stuff. Like I teach her that stuff. That way she avoids injury. But I think the best thing about learning jujitsu is that you know that if someone like really means you harm, that you can harm them just as badly, if not worse,
Right.
if they don't really understand what they're doing. And again, there's a lot of things that you can do. There's knives, there's guns, those all play equations. But the fact is, like, A lot of times I just walk away from situations. I just run. Like unless you're touching me, unless you're physically like holding me, I just walk away. It's just not worth my time getting into a scuffle. You know, it's just not. You realize very quickly when you've trained jujitsu for a while that it's not worth getting that bar championship. Yeah,
All right, you
yeah,
mentioned you're a gamer.
yeah. What's
Uh,
up?
favorite video game growing up?
Hmm. Electronically, or can it be like card or table?
We'll go with whatever.
I used to play the heck out of Digimon, the card game,
Yeah.
and Yu-Gi-Oh.
Okay.
Like a lot, like a lot, a lot, a lot. I had like strategies and everything, and I competed and everything.
I live with a
That
group of
was like,
Magic the Gathering people, so
oh, I play
yeah.
MTG. Yeah, I fuck with MTG. Yeah, we
Yeah.
we have a yeah. That's cool. That's cool.
I could never get into it. I was a D&D nerd though,
Mhm.
so equally crapped on by everyone around you.
Dude, that's so weird to me because like growing up, like no one really crapped on anybody.
No? How
No,
old are
like
you?
there wasn't 34. The the
Okay.
way that the way that Puerto Rico, okay, so the way that things were me growing up
I forgot.
was that like let's say that you and me are friends, right? And I say, "Hey Chris," because we're friends. I go, "Hey Chris, I don't fuck with so and so." And if you're my homie, like you should respect that because as my friend, you trust that if I don't mess with them, there's probably a good reason for that, and you trust my judgment. So that's how things were. So like nobody really fucked with each other. Like we would give each other crap and rib on each other, but no one really like messed with each other. So like I was part of FBLA, and I was also the interpreter, and then I also like anime and stuff like that. So like, but like no one ever really like messed with anybody. Like I never really saw any like people would get into fights and stuff. That's normal, and they call each other names because we're all teenagers, and we were all teenagers, and testosterone and whatever. But like, no, not to like the
Not to the bullying extent.
no, not to the degree that I've seen.
No,
And
I get the joking around and whatnot. My theory in life is if I like you, I'm gonna pick on you. I'm gonna make fun of you.
yeah,
If I
see, and
don't
like
like
that's
you,
weird to me.
yeah, if I don't like you, I'm gonna be super nice to you.
Yeah, I'm always nice to everybody because I just feel like the world's just such a fucked up place already that I just don't want somebody to have like a bad experience with me. But I also tell people like don't fuck with me. And I'm pretty simple. Like I've had people say some very demeaning things to me, and I'm like, all right, man, sorry you feel that way. Like I don't, I don't know what to say. But I don't really like and again, that comes from jujitsu. Like I don't really worry about what other people, say or think, unless you touch me. That's different. And I
Yeah.
tell people too, like I give them the warning, please don't touch me. Like, like we've had circumstances like that, believe it or not. There's
You're
been
a
a couple of
comedian. That
times.
doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, there's video evidence of it too, of what happens when you touch me and I tell you 2 times to stop. Uh it,
The
it
three
uh
strikes rule.
yeah, yeah. And I'm very nice about it as a thing. Like the first time we had someone, I'll tell you this, we had someone that got upset because they were being disrupted and they started getting roasted by me in the middle of my set. And this person wanted to share some words with me outside and touch me. And I like got out. I was like, no, man, like, hey, my name's Richard. And like grabbed me again a little more forcefully. So I kind of, uh, just like wrist lock, a little wrist lock. They kind of got a little scared. And I was like, don't touch me because we're not going to exchange words. Like I've told you twice, like we don't need, we can talk right here. And he like just cussed me out and walked away. And like the whole time, just like looking at me. And I was like, hey, can I help you? Like, do you want to talk? No. And I'm like, oh, okay. So you just, they just want to look mean. So I'm like, okay, I'll look dumb.
Well, being a
Yeah.
gamer, what's your go-to video game right now?
Oh man.
And I
I'm
know your
playing a
time's
lot of
precious.
PUBG. No, a lot of PUBG. Because me and my friends play it. Me and my cousin have been playing a little bit of because I just came back from break. We don't work in December. That's a rule in my house. I'm not allowed to work in December. So
Why?
um I just go all year long. And I've come to discover, like I said, like I know myself pretty well. I've come to discover that the older I get, if I don't force myself to take like time off, what happens is I get burned out. And when I get burned out, I get very self-destructive. So that's why like I have to have that balance, because I know how self-destructive I can be. You know, an idle mind is a dangerous place.
Yeah.
So like I just got done with it and I played a lot of Ghost Recon Breakpoint.
Okay.
Ghost Recon Break with my cousin and a lot of pub, but got into Cyberpunk finally.
Yeah, how'd you like it?
I really want to love it. I really want to love it. My problem is it's very buggy.
Yeah.
It's very buggy because I'm a Witcher fan. And I have the collector's book. I'm looking at it right now. It's in my little closet right there, my little plastic tub. I got the book and everything, but it's like, it's so buggy. It's just so buggy.
Bro, who you telling I'm a Bethesda fan?
Oh, I'm sorry. Bless your heart. Bless your heart, sweetheart.
I love Fallout. I love the story. I love the.
Can I ask you a question about that though?
What?
Are you upset that they got bought out by Microsoft? Or are you happy with that? Where do you stand there? Indifferent? How so?
So here's the thing. If the games get better, cool. It's a great thing.
So you're more like looking at it from a business perspective.
Yeah. If the games don't get better, you know, but they don't get worse, cool. It's a great thing. It's on par.
I like that. That's how I feel.
I'm like that with a lot of stuff though. Like I'm a comic book nerd, and I've been watching the internet just light on fire for the last 25 years now. You know, with the Marvel movies, they got this wrong. They got this wrong. And I'm sitting here going, dude, we got it on the big screen.
Yeah.
That's enough.
Yeah. Shut the fuck up.
The new Ghostbusters movie came out. Again, I'm a movie and TV nerd. That's my bread and butter there. I like video games and everything else, but movies and TVs are my thing. We got the new Ghostbusters movie and people were like, well, you know, they did this and they did that. And I'm like, dude, shut up. We got it. They acted like 2016 didn't exist, which it doesn't. And we got a third Ghostbusters movie. No, I shit on the 2016 Ghostbusters because it's fun to do because everybody does it. If it had been like, hey, you know, in 2 when they had to cross the streams, they ripped an alternate reality open or something, and these ladies were the Ghostbusters from that reality, totally could get behind it. But
what was enlighten me as to what was the thing? I haven't seen the Ghostbusters thing. What was the whole ordeal?
Okay, Ghostbusters 2016 was the one that they tried to reboot Ghostbusters with the all-female cast.
Okay.
It didn't work. It just didn't work. The writing wasn't good enough. It was too slapsticky comedy as opposed to how Ghostbusters really was, where it was more dramedy almost. It wasn't like laugh every 5 minutes. It was, you know, more of a science fiction paranormal comedy thing. I don't know how to describe it, but the genre doesn't exist anymore. Essentially. But yeah, it's just the 2016 Ghostbusters movie. It would have been fine had it either been an alternate reality or just not called Ghostbusters. Like, give it something else. Like, just don't try to reboot because it just didn't work.
Damn. Well, 2016, I was training a ton. That's why I didn't know. I've missed so many things.
I will say this: it's worth watching at least once, even if you just want to watch it to figure out why everyone's shitting on it, so you can shit on it too.
Oh, I don't really like.
It's good for hate watching.
No, see, that's the thing. I don't really like do stuff like that because like it's like. I'm the type of person, like, if I don't have, like, really anything nice, and this is going to sound really puss, like I'm going to sound like a puss. If I don't really have, like, something nice to say, I just kind of go, oh, okay. Like, that's cool, I guess, you know?
You see, though, I even tap danced around actually shitting on the damn movie. I just was saying.
Oh, no, I get it. I get it. It's just like, I just always been like that. But it sounds funny because you're like the third person today that was talking about that. That was like pointed that out. And I was like, I forgot to Google it. I'm like, why is everybody like, what's the problem?
It's just, it's not a good movie. It just isn't. And it was made worse because they're releasing the box set of the Ghostbuster movies now. And the director of that 2016 movie got on the internet and started complaining and crying that his movie wasn't going to be included in that box set.
Oh, okay.
And
I see.
Sony was like, okay, we'll
Okay.
put in a digital code. So you
Okay.
get 3 physical movies in this really cool box set thing, and then a coupon to maybe download the 2016 one if you want.
Hmm. Interesting.
Yeah. I got a
Hmm.
couple more questions. We'll do interview
Yeah.
roulette and I'll get you on your way. I don't want to take up too much of your
Oh, dude, no,
time.
take all the time you got.
Okay.
I took out the night for this.
Oh, cool. Well, then I want to touch on how you say you take the month of December off. I want to at
Yeah.
least let you know that, I understand. I don't take a whole month off.
Yeah.
Yesterday was my off day for the last 2 month and a half.
Hmm.
Like it was one day off day, and the wife looked at me. She's like, "So what are you going to do on your day off?" Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
And she's like, "What do you mean nothing?" She's like, "Don't you want to watch something?" Nope. Had to do a lot of that for work. Well, don't you want to play something? Nope. I don't want to exude the brain power for that right now. So I get it. The burnout is a big thing, especially in
Yeah.
this, because as content creators, you probably have learned in the 6 months that you've been doing this that you have to be consistent. You have to be on top of things. You
Hmm.
have to be everywhere at once.
Yeah. And that's why I have like I said earlier, like I structure things. Like my social media does stupid good lately. Like stupid good. Like I post like 3 times a day and I post like different things. And like today I think I posted something and got like 5,700 views or something like that. So but it's taken a while to get there. Like a
Yeah,
while,
I'm
man.
working on building a team because I do everything else myself,
Mm,
and it's there's only so much one man can do.
yeah. Yeah. I feel you on that one. But it's crazy the amount of things that like you have to do, especially like as a comic and stuff like that. Like, my wife is pretty supportive. So like sometimes we'll shoot a video together and whatnot just to like, have something different out there. But like I I use the rule for me, like content creating. I use the same rule that I use with stocks. Like I only do things that I like. I only invest in things that I like and that are going to be like life changing.
Mm-hmm.
So I do the same thing with my content. It's like, oh, this is a little piece of information that could be like really cool. Oh, hey, this is something really funny that I want to share. Um, because that way it's just easier for me and it keeps me happy. Like I like doing it, but it
When
is
you're
rough sometimes.
Yeah, well, on my end of things is audio editing, audio recording, audio editing, video recording, conducting the interviews, doing the research for guests and whatnot, having to watch movies that are relevant if they fall in that case. I pick music for my show. I'm in contact with local and independent bands, making sure that I've got their newest single and any information that they need for the to
Mm,
be put out. Like I've got all this stuff that I'm already doing, and I will admit social media is I used to be really good at it, but now it's unfortunately kind of fallen to the wayside a little bit. I'm trying to get back on the ball
yeah.
with it.
Facebook changed their algorithm recently, and dude, I'm telling you, it's been like I've been pitching to get sponsors now because of it. Because I'm trying to sponsor not I'm trying to set like a sponsor package where it's like you get me, but you get everything that's attached to me, right? So like I teach classes to interpreters and stuff like that. And like that's something else like, that I can bring into is like, hey, on these classes that I get hundreds of people, I can plug in like, this product or I can plug this in and whatever. And that'll lead to this. And we've proven it a couple times. So now we're kind of like really pushing towards it. Because in the beginning I was like, oh, these aren't that good numbers. And then I talked to a couple like TikTokers in town that like have like millions of followers, and they're like, no, that's how it starts. So I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
Well, remember we were talking earlier about the things that I do with the show and whatnot, and you asked
Yeah.
how that goes for you, and yeah, I understand. I'm
Yeah.
on the upward climb. I took time off. I'm back to
Mm,
doing this. It's been about a year, and where we
mm,
are for a year is decent enough growth that it's still continuing, and we're just riding that train back up. because like I said, 14 years, and you know, had to put it to bed for a little bit because life got in the way.
Yeah, but that happens. I feel like that there's not a single thing that I haven't done where I got to a point where it was either like, okay, I personally can't continue this because this thing will take way more time, energy, and managing skills than this, and I just can't hack it like that. That's human, man. That's human, and you learn over the years like not to do it. Just consist. You get used to it.
I want to go back to video games for 2 more questions, though.
Yeah,
because I've got a fellow nerd here, so I can at least have fun. I like the Bethesda question. I honestly did.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
What's one video game you couldn't beat?
Like in the beginning, or like to this day, I can't.
To this day, you're still.
Not really any, because like when I get on a game, like I have like right now like hundreds of games, but I play like consistently. I'll play like 5 games. I'll rotate them out, and if I get stuck, I just figure it out one way or another. Like I'm too stupid to fucking quit for my own good. And not with the invention of YouTube. Like if you would have asked me like what game could I never beat when I was a kid, but I had to cheat my way, I would answer Secret of Mana in Super Nintendo. I got stuck in one of the fights with the robots, and I couldn't pass it, and it was because I had to go get a weapon and stuff like that, and I used YouTube to hack that, like to figure it out. So great game, by the way. Great game.
Mine was Earthworm Jim on the Sega, the original Earthworm Jim game.
Oh shit!
Do you remember that game?
Yes, I remember.
So the game part that I got stuck on was was the level where you're underwater and you have to use the submersibles to get to different spots in the level.
I never played it. I never played it, but I had a Sega.
Yeah.
And I was like, I played a lot of Sonic on Sega.
Yeah. Well, everyone did. Sonic and Mortal Kombat were like the 2 games everybody had.
Oh, I wasn't allowed, man. No, my parents had a rule about ESRB ratings. Like they followed that. They were my dad was a cop for 30 years. And by the time that I was born, he'd been a cop for like 15 years, So he kind of like, you don't need to see these things.
Yeah, no, that's probably right.
But my first game that he let me like play, and if he ever listens to this, he'll regret it. First game he ever let me play when I was 16 was Metal Gear Solid. Sons of Liberty. Metal Gear Solid Sons of Liberty.
Yeah.
And the reason I joined the military was because I wanted to go to war and smoke cigars like Solid Snake, the young dumb year. And if you go on my Facebook, there's a picture of me with a fucking cigar like this, and like someone made there's a meme around there. Someone made like a bandana, and like very few people get that meme. Like, yeah. So yeah, thanks Hideo Kojima.
All right, if you could design a game, what kind of game would you love to make?
It would absolutely be a game about either a couple stories that I've written, or it would absolutely be like a Telltale games.
Episodic.
Right? Yeah, about like some of the cases I've done. I've thought about that a lot. Like some of like the human trafficking cases I've had to translate and whatnot. I would do like a Telltale game about that. I think that'd be pretty dope.
I think I'd play it.
Yeah, those Telltale games, like they're good, and if some of them are really good.
Some of them are really good.
Yeah, some of them are really good, and I think that would be the best way to capture like an audience if I ever decided to like write a book or something like that.
Complete with choices.
Like
complete with choices and morality.
Complete with choices and morality and everything, just like D&D, yeah, I think that would be, and I've thought about that a lot. That's funny you asked that. No one's ever asked me that. That's a good question. That would be 100% what I would do.
See, I disarm you with the puffball stuff, and
well, it's because normally when people, it's funny, like very few people when they meet me and they read like my bio, they want to get into like a lot of like the hard questions. Oh, thank you for your service. All right, well, I could have been a chef,
Yeah.
Could have told you my rank was Captain Crunch, you know?
So I hope this isn't offensive in any way, shape, or form to any of
I'm
the
already
veterans. Yeah, you're fine. You could hang up if you really get offended. No, I feel nervous because there are opinions and views that I have that
offended.
aren't necessarily the greatest, but one of them is it makes me cringe every time I hear someone thank a serviceman for their service. And the only reason it does is because, like I said, I used to work with the military. I used to handle TRICARE insurance. I was the guy that you had to call when everything was up.
That's actually something that I have to do too.
I was the guy you called when everything was screwed up, and it was my job to fix it. 9 times out of 10, I did. If I couldn't fix it, I beat my head against the wall and pushed through the bureaucratic side that I could to try to get things to move smoother.
Yeah.
But we were told we had to do that. You know, that was part of the call, part of the script. And I talked to this older service member and I said that, and he said, "Boy, I understand that they probably make you do that. But I want to tell you, it's not necessary." And he's like, "I'm not even mad at you, but I want them to hear this because I know they're listening to it. Stop it."
Recorded. Yep.
And
yeah.
He said, "It makes me uncomfortable. I did what I chose to do. I do not need the thanks for doing it."
Yeah. And like, that's the thing is like, I understand where people are coming from. I really do. So I have a joke that I say that I hate when people thank me for my service. Like, that's what you do to a waiter. Like, what are you going to do? You're going to give me 15% on something? And I mean 15% money wise. Don't you give me that 15% discount. That's bullshit at this point. And like, see, normally like that's when people like get really uncomfortable and then they're like, I see where you're going with this. But it's not necessary, man. Like, I appreciate it sometimes because I get it. I get where they're coming. You can normally tell. You can normally tell when someone like they really mean it. And like the people who are like, "Thank you for your service," you know, like they're like reading it off a script, you know, and like I get it. I get the game, you know, but it's just still.
Again, if you have me on your show, I'm going to tell you.
Oh, no, you're coming.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you to ask me how you really thank a serviceman.
Well, you know,
No. That wasn't a question for you. That was, I'm going to have you ask me how you should really thank a serviceman or a service member. Because I've got a story for you, but I'm not telling it here.
No, that's cool.
It's a good one. At least I think you think it will be. So what's your biggest oh shit moment in life so far? Like just complete oh shit, what have I gotten myself into? And then complete oh shit, how did I get here excited?
When I had my kid, when I was told that I was going to be a dad, it was nerve-wracking for a lot of reasons. Very scary. But then, you know, as time has progressed, it's kind of like, oh, this is really fucking cool. Like, you know, like this is fun. And like everybody's like, well, yeah, because she's 2. But like everybody was like, oh, you know, you won't sleep and this and that. Like, bro, my kid never woke up.
Some kids are just chill.
Never woke up. My kid speaks Spanish. She can talk to you in Spanish. She listens in Spanish better than she does in English. She listens very well.
Backwards anyways.
Yeah. She listens like super well. But at the same time, it's like, you know, it's funny. My black belt, like Brian Stumer, was like the one who gave me the best advice when he found out that I was going to be a dad. He looked at me, he said, "You're going to be a great dad." And I was like, "Why?" He goes, "You've dealt with kids in like the most horrible situations. So like somebody like you like really understands like how to calm kids down. Like, and you have all these skills that you can teach your kid." I was like, "Oh, whatever." And then like, you know, I remember my first time my kids started talking Spanish. You know, I remember the first time she like called me dad, you know, and then, you know, like today when she got here, she's like, "Hi, Dada." I'm like, "Hey, what's up? How are you?" And I talk to my kid like a human being. Like, I don't talk to my kid like, "How are you looking?" Like sometimes, you know, Um, but I talk to my kid like a human being, and I explain things to her. Like when she asks me a question, if I don't have the answer, sometimes I don't. She's huge into dinosaurs, and like that's when like it was a few weeks ago that I had like an oh shit moment with her because she knows more about dinosaurs than I do, and I was like, oh, I can't have my fucking kid outdoing me. Like this will not stand. So now I'm trying to learn about dinosaurs.
Isn't that the whole point of having kids, though?
It's the
So
adventure.
the student becomes the master eventually.
That's the adventure, man. That's the adventure. Apparently, I don't know the difference between a T-Rex and a Gigantosaurus.
Well, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody knows that.
Yeah, it's so obvious. My kid, every time she wants to say like duh, instead of saying duh, she goes, silly daddy. Like, thanks.
Tricks are for kids.
It's scary, man. It's scary. I even wrote a joke saying that like, raising a kid is kind of like invading a country and dealing with terrorists. Like you don't negotiate with them. God forbid you try to understand them and you say the wrong thing. And let me tell you what, no matter what, you can't mistreat them. Since the 90s, at least. And I'm talking about terrorists. You can't mistreat the terrorists since the 90s. And it's crazy because I had someone after a show approach me like, that's a really dark joke. I go, yeah, but you understand what I'm trying to say, right? Like it's terrifying to be a parent. It's fucking terrifying. This is coming from someone who went to war.
Let me ask you this then about comedy.
Yeah.
Do you think we should shy away from the dark comedy topics? Or is funny regardless of whether or not someone's offended?
Here's the thing. Comedy can be very subjective. And again, this is coming from someone who hasn't been doing comedy for very long, but I'd like to think that I can analyze things okay. Comedy is comedy. I think if you are true to yourself and you figure that out, I think you're going to be fine. Take Bill Burr, for example, right? Do you know how Bill Burr became famous? Like what broke him into stardom?
Not offhand, no.
It was called the Philly rant. And that rant, he even says, fuck the Liberty Bell. Like he says a lot of things. But Bill Burr is Bill Burr. He's even on Disney. So why is that? So I look at it like from a base, like a base or like a base, right? Like everything has to have a home base. Well, he knows who he is. He knows that he goes on rants and he knows when he says something, he knows what he's saying, but he's still Bill Burr. So I think that in comedy, doesn't matter what it is. Look at Richard Pryor, Bob Saget, for example, that could be, I guess, dark comedy or like, sexual comedy, whatever you want to call it. Everybody has a style. And I think that to me, it's important to remember, like, this is what I do personally, what I tell the people around me to do. Like, if I don't like something, I just don't listen to it. I pay it no mind. People don't understand how powerful that is. Because think about it. How many great shows are out there that people just don't know about because people don't talk about it? Mm-hmm. So it gives it no power. Kind of like listening to the Rico podcast on iHeartRadio. But anyways,
no, listening to it gives you power.
Shamelessly plugging it in. Hey. But no, I think that comedy can come from very different places. What I wish is that when people come to, here's what I wish, man, and this is a great question actually, because it's so many layers.
I know.
When we're talking about comedy, and again, this is from someone who's very new, we have to come to a comedy club with an open mind. A lot of people come to a comedy club thinking that it's open for discussion or open up for debate, when the realization is like you're paying someone to come and listen to them. If you don't know who they are, do a little bit of research. If you don't know anything, give it a chance. If you don't like it, hey, you just don't like it. I think that the problem also is we have a lot of people that don't take the time to really educate themselves and talk to people a little bit wiser than themselves about comedy, or do some research. There's a lot of good information out there that a lot of great comedians put out. And it's super useful, and at the end of the day, like, understand, like, it's work, like you're going to work. Me personally, I don't get drunk or like high or anything before I go on stage. It kills my timing for me. That's what works for me.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people think that because I'm always tired, I'm high, which I have a 2-year-old, man.
And I work.
Yeah, and I do a lot of things, like I'm not at home scratching my taint. But I wish people would just understand that it's like if you don't like something, like, that's cool. If you don't get a joke, ask the comedian. Hey, I got a question. What did you mean by this? Like, what's the point of that joke? If
After
a
a set.
comedian, yeah, after a set, if a comedian can't answer that, I don't know. I don't know. I was taught that when you write a joke, you should know where it comes from. Like I know where each and every one of my jokes comes from and how I got to there, because it's important to me. Like to me, it's like, it's really important to me. I'm sure that as I go on, I'll probably forget things. Um, but yeah, that's just how I feel about it. It's
See,
all about.
I'm glad you said that though, is that you feel people don't investigate. So I don't know if you noticed or not, but Dave Chappelle got himself into trouble a few months ago for his last comedy special on Netflix
Yeah,
where
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
and the whole time, like I've been a fan of Chappelle for a very long time. I sit down to watch a Dave Chappelle special. I know what the fuck I'm gonna get. You know? Like there's no preconceived notions that, oh, maybe Dave's got lightened up and become woke. No, Dave was already woke and you just didn't like the way he was saying it. What it's coming down to for me, what it came down to in that, it was actually a big divide in my house because my wife is 10 years younger than me. So she's more millennial than Gen Xer. I'm almost 40. So and what I saw it as is a bunch of people saw, oh, a new comedy special. Let me watch it, not knowing who Dave Chappelle was or is or doing any real investigation of his previous work or anything like that, and then got their panties in a twist because they think he said unkind words and that he was quote unquote punching down. And I don't feel he was punching down.
The problem I've come to discover, and I discovered this like a while back, is that when a lot of these articles take place making an opinion about something like that, from what we've learned through the podcast and through like as comedians, is it's normally like one or two people. And I've noticed this a lot. For example, we've had people tell us that in New York, there was a lot of places that weren't allegedly weren't like they were packed out, and they didn't have masks and stuff, and like people just didn't care, and you hear stuff like that, and then you read something and you're like, this doesn't add up. I think that with the whole Chappelle thing, if I recall correctly, people were saying that he was talking bad about them, and I've seen the special 3 times because unfortunately when you like comedy, the first time you see it, it's like you're trying to figure out what they're going to say. And you're watching it as a comedian. You're like, okay, oh, I see how we got to laugh there. Oh, because of this, because of,
you're studying tapes like you would in football.
100%, right? Like you would in a jiu-jitsu match, like you would in a grappling match, in a wrestling match. And unfortunately in comedy, I feel like it happens. It didn't happen right away for me, but like with him, when I saw the last one, I was kind of lost as to what the issue was, because it was really sad that like, that person like killed himself.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like really disheartening to me that the conversation that we're not having is, let's talk about that person that killed himself. Let's talk about that issue
and the reason why.
Yeah,
it had nothing to do with Chappelle. Chappelle was the unfortunate martyr, I guess, in a way. Not really, but like he was the unfortunate target of the ire.
Yeah, and like I feel like the sad part about this is that sometimes we try to take things that like aren't really there and try to put them in there, and we end up creating demons sometimes.
We connect dots where dots don't need to be connected.
Yeah, and that's what I tell people, like, because I've dealt with this. I've dealt with people that they listen, they're hearing you, but they're not listening, and they listen to bits and pieces. Like, oh, you said this. Like, no, that's not what I said. Like, this is what I said, because you're making a decision emotionally. And it's funny because when I was younger, I had a squad leader named Billy Joe Charles that he said, never make a decision with emotions. It's like you regret it for the rest of your life. And it's funny because I look back, thinking back, and like when I joined the army, it wasn't an emotional decision. It was like facts. You know, when I went to do, some of the work I did, it wasn't emotional. It was like, I'm gonna save all these kids. It's like, no, no, no. This is where I am. This is the opportunity. Let's go with the facts. Um, but I'm trying to figure out like why that's not part of the conversation. And then it kind of like,
Because it's an inconvenient truth.
yeah, that's one of my theories. And then the second theory is like, well, when you want to attack somebody, you just attack what you don't like and what you feel like is an opening. But Chappelle is fortunately a master at his craft and a master at languages. And as an interpreter, I take my hat off, because I don't consider myself much of a comic yet. But as a guy who loves comedy, like, it's beautiful to see. And as an interpreter, you kind of look at it and you go, "Oh shit!" Like, damn, that makes sense. And you start listening to things the way he says it, and you're like, to me at least, it makes a lot of sense.
I think the word you were actually struggling for is intelligent, conscious human being. Aware of more than what's at the end of their nose.
Yeah, and it's just sad. It's just sad that we have like such beautiful things that we could be talking about, but yet we're always talking about like negative things. And
well, we always
like,
need an enemy. We always need a villain.
And that's why I said in the beginning, I was like, if I don't have anything nice to say, I don't say shit, because I don't want to put that. I don't even want to like entertain it. Like, I just don't, because I generally don't want to make time for it. And that's what I tell people all the time. Like, I don't want to make time for that.
Yeah.
Like, it's I think once I started realizing that I could be a little bit more honest about things and I just wouldn't give a fuck, like, I think like people started like really respecting me, which was really weird to me.
Yeah, I'm that friend that I don't sugarcoat. I don't bullshit.
Yeah.
You're gonna get the uncomfortable truth from me all the time, and it's not because I want to hurt you or I hate you. It's because I respect you enough to tell you the truth.
And I'm gonna tell you how to fix it. Is the thing that I'm
gonna try to anyways.
Yeah, 100%. I'm gonna say, listen, here are your options. Like, these are some options, But I know where I stand with people. Like, that's the beauty that I have, is I know where I stand with people. I know where my people stand with me.
Yeah.
And some people might say, well, no, you don't. And I say, well, if I don't and I'm wrong, I'm okay with being wrong. Like, I can die tomorrow and I'm okay with that decision. And that's kind of like how I look at a lot of decisions. Like, if I'm wrong here, am I okay with eating shit? Like, 100%. Cool. Then I'm cool with it, Other things, I'm not like that.
No, I get that. Now, there's an ongoing rule in my circle of friends of we do not ask Odd his opinion on anything. Especially us, because if we're stupid enough to ask, we better be prepared that he's going to give an answer.
That's good.
It's a matter of, I've always been the counselor. I've always been that couch. Even in high school, I was the house that my friends came to when they needed to talk to somebody. I was that role. And my wife, when I was working at the hospital, my wife referred to me as a beacon for the downtrodden, a shining light in the darkness. And so they follow me, and when they do, I try to help, and I try to be kind, and I try to be understanding, and everybody makes mistakes, and we can come back from those mistakes. I'm a big believer in we learn nothing from success. We learn from failure. Failure isn't bad. It's a necessity, because we got to do it wrong to figure out how to do it right.
Yeah. And you're going to make mistakes. Like, God, I can't tell you how many mistakes. All
right. I feel bad because I cut you off earlier, and I actually do want to know, How do you think we could support returning servicemen and women better? How do you think we could support our veterans better?
A lot of blowjobs. A lot of blowjobs.
I'm not signing up for that. I'm sorry.
I feel like you were like, "Oh, this is gonna be good," and then I just gave you the BJ answer.
I mean, that answer makes me want to join. So
I always tell people joining the army used to be like joining a frat, like exactly like joining a frat. Like there's a lot of fucking, there's a lot of fucking in the military, a lot. I don't care what anybody tells you. There's a lot of fucking in the military. A lot. Think about it, dude. Look at what you're doing to people. You're putting them through extreme conditions of exercise and stress and teaching them these skills.
You got a trauma bond with your battle buddy.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah. I think the best thing you can do, man, is just leave us the fuck alone sometimes. like sincerely, like we know, like veterans know, like we know that if we need something, like, you know, we know that the American people care. Some people say the American people don't care. I call bullshit. Maybe it's because of where I'm at, you know, maybe it's because of where I'm at, but I've been to places in Cali that people have been very kind to me. I've been to places in Boston that they love, you know, their service members. So I always say I have a hard time trying to find all this like negativity people talk about. But man, the best thing is just let us be, you know, like some people want to talk, some veterans, they want to talk. Sometimes, man, it's just better just let us be.
Right. So leave them alone or give them a blowjob. I'm going to quote you on that.
Oh, fuck.
All right. You ready to play interview roulette with me?
God, no, but go ahead.
Come on. These are more fun, even though this whole interview has been a real joy. All right. So you picked 5 numbers before we got started.
Yeah.
I got the questions that correspond with them.
Yeah.
The first one is, the world is flooding and you must build a small ark. Which 7 animals do you save? And why?
Chickens, dogs, a pair of dogs, probably like wolf dogs, chickens, dogs, what's the other thing? Oh God, I'm trying to figure out the name. What's it called? Possums, fish, like some sort of fish that's edible, like bass fish or something. I'd also try to save a few birds, not carpenter birds. Fuck those birds. Is that 5?
7 is what you need.
7. I got 2 left. I would also try to take some sort of reptile, probably small salamanders, and then cows. The cow and the chicken would be for food and for eggs, because in a survival situation you burn more calories, so you need to have a higher fat content. The cow for obvious reasons, meat and resources, milk, so I can stay hydrated. The possum would be to eat any lizards. I'm sorry, any.
I was gonna say, you're bringing salamanders.
My bad. To eat like any little bugs that get on board, or any sort of like decomposers that might happen, pests. Right? Some pests, right? Like dogs, they can attract fleas and stuff, and possums, like they eat. That's why you see possums in people's backyards around here. They're eating like ticks is what they're doing, and then they move on. So that's pretty good. The dog wolves to procreate, and that way I have a companion, and I also have something to entertain myself with, because if you don't, you'd get fucking bored. The reptiles, just because reptiles are needed. They can be used as food for like different animals such as the possum, And on top of that, they also help contain like bad bacteria and stuff like that.
Well, they reproduce fairly quickly too. So
They do fairly quickly, so it's great food for
yeah.
like animals and stuff.
The fish is an interesting one. They just a dude running around with an aquarium and a boat on the water.
Because I don't know if fish would be extinct at that point, would be the thing. I don't know what would happen. So I just would bring some sort of fish that I can eat, just in case, so I can get a higher fat content. And then what was the other one? Birds. Oh, birds to send messages, just in case I can start reproducing and send messages. And they sing beautifully too. I like the sound of birds. It helps me relax. And birds can be used as a food too.
Yeah, well, eggs, and you can eat.
You can give it to your dogs.
Yeah.
So it's got a whole little ecosystem.
I like those answers. If you had to design a playground for adults, what's one thing you'd put on it?
A strip club. Next question.
Fair enough. What would be your dream car?
I don't really have a dream car. I'm gonna be honest. I have a car that I like to own. It's a Tesla Model S.
Okay, well, that would technically be your dream car then.
Yeah, it's not like I gotta have. It's just that'd be cool to have.
Yeah.
I'm not big
into cars. The self-driving feature?
No. I'd like to have it just in case, but it's not something I would trust for right now.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're about 10, 15 years away from the technology being semi-trustworthy, and then probably 20, 25 years away from actually being safe with it.
I don't think it's a matter of that. To me, it's more a matter of how long am I personally gonna give it to trust it, because I've seen some videos that scare me. Because that's the biggest thing. You can have all the evidence in the world, but convincing people, bro, that like it's scary.
Realistically, for self-driving cars to even be remotely thought of as working, you'd have to rip up the entire infrastructure of roads. You'd have to redesign them. You'd have to put markers and GPS stuff in them. A whole ton of electronics would have to go into the roads. And then the car would have to be on Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, constantly talking to the road back and forth in order for it to be remotely considered. Because otherwise there's too many factors. And at that point, it's slot car racing.
Yeah. It's one of those things that like, yeah.
There's only really one way to go about it, and that makes sense to me. And it's slot car racing. Back in high school, what was the strangest thing someone could find in your locker?
We don't have lockers in Puerto Rico.
No?
No, we didn't have lockers.
Okay, backpack.
We don't use that. Okay, my backpack. What was the question again?
I'm sorry, man. I don't know.
No, you're fine, brother.
I'm as Caucasian as they come.
What was it again? What was it that someone...
The question is, back in high school, what was the strangest thing someone would find in your backpack?
My Yu-Gi-Oh deck.
Yeah?
Yeah. My Yu-Gi-Oh deck. 100%. It's probably the weirdest thing.
Did you guard it with your life, though?
Oh, fuck yeah, I did. The deck was worth $300, bro.
Were you good at it, though?
Yeah.
Well, hey, man, I know people that play Magic the Gathering and suck at it.
I do okay.
Yeah.
I do okay.
Did you ever do tournaments or anything like that?
Not for Magic. For Yu-Gi-Oh, I did.
I meant for Yu-Gi-Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, all the time. All the time. I played a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh. Played a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh. Back in the day. Oh, back in the day. But back in the day, that's what I played a lot was Yu-Gi-Oh, man. Like I loved playing Yu-Gi-Oh. I actually stopped, man. It's very addictive.
Well, I've seen how Magic the Gathering has taken hold of the people that live here, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm good.
That's why I don't do it. That's why I don't fuck with it. Because it's like, I'll take it personal. Like, oh, you think you can beat my deck? All right, motherfucker.
You know what it is for me? I have trouble because I've seen what some of the cards cost and whatnot. I have trouble rationalizing paying that much for ink on paper or ink on cardboard.
Uh,
I get it. You know, I
yeah,
see that because like baseball cards and stuff like that, those have value, but they only have as much value as someone's willing to pay for them.
correct.
And the in my head, and this is why I don't live a fancy life or have any fancy tastes or anything like that, because to me, it just seems silly to pay that much for a piece of cardboard with ink on it.
Hmm.
That's all. But again, I don't knock it because I know there's tons of people that love it, and you know, the artwork.
Yeah, and that's just like it's what it is. It's like you said, I love what shit is like. It's not for me.
Yeah.
Like that's the key word right there. I tell people like every time somebody starts talking shit, I'm like, hey man, like people made it clear like they're not. And that's the biggest thing I've learned. Like when I started podcasting was that a lot of people are like, I love how you don't like, oh, this is what it is. Like you're like, no, this is how it is for me. And I was like, yeah, that's how it should be. And a lot of people like told me like, no, not a lot of people are like that. And it's like it's the beauty because it's like, yeah, that's what works in my world. You know, you know what I'm saying?
All right. Last question for interview roulette.
Yeah.
What 3 things would you leave in a time capsule for people to find 50 years from now?
I'd leave a flip phone. I leave a fake death note, like a fake death note from the anime death note, right? And then I would leave like a will with a fake check on it.
So you're just fucking trolling people. I see. I like it.
100%. I don't think time capsules like I know recently we found one.
Yeah.
In Virginia, was it? Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. I want to know how much that's gonna be because that's probably gonna cost a lot of money. Imagine if they would have found. Imagine if they would have found a death note with a flip phone and a blank check that said, "Put whatever money you want, but kill everybody in the world." Like, yeah, there you go, bro. That's a you want to talk about Russian roulette right there. Like, you can't have all the money you want, but you got to kill everybody in the world. Like,
everybody.
Everybody.
You know what? I got all the money in the world. You know,
but who are you going to share it with?
Yeah, but I'm not going to be able to kill everybody. Theoretically, it would have to be you give me the money so I can try to attempt to kill everybody.
You got a death note, though.
Yeah, well, that's true.
See, this is the conundrum.
That's like
I have made it. You know why I love saying that? And that's actually something I tell people. It's because it's the conundrum of would you kill? Like, would you kill for all the money in the world? But if you kill once, you have to kill everybody. That's why I say you have to kill everybody. That's the conundrum.
No, I like my wife and I like my friends. So
more than money, and that's the conundrum right there. Is like, how much do you like? How much value do you put on money? I tell this to my interns when they first come to intern for me for Language Ninja. I present that to them. I go. You open a time capsule and it has a death note. And like 99% of my interns know what death note is because almost all interpreters are nerds.
Well, you have to be.
It's just, yeah, you kind of have to be in this line of work. You have to love languages and reading. And I present that to them and they're like, oh shit, I don't know what I would do. I was like, all right, you better figure it out. Figure it out.
No, I wouldn't do it because they're as long as there's at least one person that I actually care about and I like, I wouldn't do it.
It gives hope.
Yeah. Otherwise, you strip everything away from me. I say this with no bones about it. I fully believe what was said. I believe it was the Killing Joke of Batman, where Joker and Batman were talking, and Joker said, "Everyone is one bad day away from being me."
100% And that's why I tell people. That's why I treat people kindly, because I don't ever want to be the name on someone's list, and I don't ever want to be the reason a motherfucker loses it. Yeah. Hell no.
I've told all of my friends that truly care about me that you should help me protect my wife, because if anything happens to her, we don't have kids. Most of my family is either estranged or gone. I will burn the world down.
See, and that's the thing that I tell people is like, once you figure out like what, because it's like you said, and that's why I said in the beginning, that's why I'm kind to everybody. Because it's like, dude, you don't know. You have no clue. Like, how many steps is this person from just burning everything the fuck down? Like, you have no clue. And I've seen it, dude. I've seen it a lot of times, and it like, and there's always the people who like, I always say this, there's always the people that make comments like, oh, whatever. And I'm like, well, that's cool. Like, if that works for you, like, good for you, man. But not in my world.
Yeah. I was raised on this from the school of fuck around and find out. And trust me, if it goes to court, I will constantly cite fuck around v find out. Well, it's funny because like I'm from here in and around the Detroit area of Michigan. Now, when I moved out of state and people asked me where I was from, it's easier to say Detroit. I'm about 30 minutes outside of it. But I mean, way I drive, I can be there in 15. So I'm not really that far. But the minute you're like, no, I'm from Detroit, they're like, oh my God, how did you survive? Like,
That's funny.
What are you talking about? And they're like, isn't
That's
it just so dangerous there? And I was like, it's no more dangerous than, and I looked around because I was in small towns south at that point.
Yeah.
I was going to say it's no more dangerous than being around here. And I was like, yeah, you're right. But yeah, people treated me nicely because they weren't sure what someone from Detroit was willing to do.
That's funny.
So
I think you should always treat people like kindly, be polite. I'm not saying you got to be a piece of shit, but just, I don't know, manners to me are huge.
Do unto others.
Yeah, like that's one thing I instill in my kid is like manners. It's like the one thing that I will like argue, like, no, you say please and thank you. You say excuse me, like it's one of those things. Someone asked me like why, and I said because it doesn't take anything. And it makes you like, I don't know, there's something about being nice to people that feels nice. Can't explain it. But that's just the way I feel about it.
Okay, man, that's the end of our time. Tell them where they can find you.
You can find me on the Rico podcast on iHeartRadio and on our Facebook page. You want to find me directly, you can find me on Richard Aviles. That's on Facebook, and you'll see like my logo. And if you want to talk to me, it's R-A as in alpha, B as in boy, D as in delta, EL440@gmail.com. I answer emails faster than I answer phone calls. Yeah, I appreciate it, man. It's been fun.